This first video by LiussDBD, who is somebody that we have watched before, does a lot of long ranking videos and stuff like that. Very cool content creator. Here's the link to the original video. Please like and subscribe to this creator. Please like this video, subscribe to them, because without them, this content would not be possible. So please at least do your part. Do your part. Or like and subscribe to said video. That way they get the support of the official release. This video in particular is talking about how to create a toxic gaming community specifically focused with Dead by Daylight. So let's go ahead and see what they have to say.
It's a relatively fun game. Well, as long as you ignore the camping, tunneling, teabagging, slugging, smack talking, stream sniping, sore losing, sore winning, death threatening,
sore winning is the worst part,
and DDoSing. But aside from that, pretty fun. Every single gamer has experienced some form of toxicity, but there's just something about DBD in particular that seems to bring the worst out of people. So let's take
there we go. Quality was kind of ick.
Take a look at why that is.
What's sore winning? So like, for example, we had sore winning yesterday. Remember, we were playing Hillbilly, and we were playing no slowdown and not his best add-ons. And we went to Toba Landing, and they had 3 BNPs, and one chick was mad that I tunneled that match, and came into that match, even though it was a 4-out, complaining and whining about me tunneling. Well, actually, I think it was a 3-out, but yeah. They had won, and the person came in yelling about tunneling, even though the person that got tunneled they weren't even the one that died. It was somebody else. Yeah, that's sore winning. Like, they had to come make me feel like garbage in my chat after the match, even though they had won.
Daylight is an asymmetrical game. There's one player taking the role of killer facing off against 4 survivor players. The killer's goal is to hook and kill, and the survivor's goal is to, survive, specifically by repairing generators to power up the exit gate. The #1 thing that separates Dead by Daylight from other online games is without a doubt tribalism. Ever since the dawn of man, early humans found safety and comfort in numbers. It was much easier to live together than it was being alone. You get to have each other's backs, share food, have company, and a bear is less likely to eat you in your sleep.
Yep.
Flash forward to today, and tribalism still plays a large role in our lives. A big example of this is sports.
Thatcher? You're playing Siege right now?
If you guys know anything about sports, then you know it could get pretty intense.
Without
the reason
me?
for that type of hostility is a line of thinking called us versus them, Dodgers versus Giants, progressives versus conservatives,
I hate
pineapple on pizza enjoyers versus normal people, killers versus survivors. Players that only play one side take their side to heart and as a part of their identity. An attack on one of them is an attack on all of them, and they will defend their side as if their life depended on it. Don't believe me? Just take a look at my TikTok comments. I feel like I have to put on a hazmat suit.
Which is, like, it's fine if you understand that you're biased, because your voice still counts, right? I go into streams all the time. Some people are, like, massively survivor-sided, but they'll, like, say, like, okay, well, I know I'm just survivor-sided, so I know that's how I feel. Or I'll go to, like, a killer streamer, they'll be like, oh, I know a lot of people like to see the game, like, essentially fairly by looking at both sides. But I'm just a dirty killer, man. They'll say stuff like that. But, like, those opinions still matter, because, like, a place of bias, like, your voice, you still have an opinion about the game, and the opinion still matters. It's when you start touting it as, like, complete fact and not a place of, like, irrationality to some extent, that's when it's an issue, right?
Every time I do that. But why is it like this? Why do people spend hours arguing with complete strangers online over a game that has a spin-off for horny players?
Good question.
The thing here is that villains aren't often born, they're created. Someone could come into the game and try to be nice and try to have fun, and then they get absolutely steamrolled and BM'd over and over and over again until they just snap and stop being nice.
Matt, appreciate you.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm also guilty of this. I'll go into a tough match and get absolutely outplayed and mocked in endgame chat, to the point that I decide I'm gonna go absolutely sicko mode in this next game and completely obliterate these innocent survivors that
See, like, I've never got that, Like, sometimes I'll get blasted and I'll be like, well, that sucks. But, like, I never, like, tune up my build or, like, play meaner the next match, right? Like, I'm just kind of like, well, that sucks, and then I move on with my day. I just kind of, like, don't take that stuff personally. I feel like that's a big, not saying that this person's doing something wrong or anything, but, I feel like people just take stuff so personally. I feel like when it comes to a lot of, like, the, like, frustrations with Dead by Daylight, people take stuff personally. Like, way personally. And it's just like, it's not that deep. Like, really, the things you're feeling and experiencing are not that deep. It's okay to feel them. Like, we were talking about this earlier. It's okay to feel those things. and your feelings are valid, but you also need to understand that your feelings may not always match reality. And then kind of like, you know, like with most things in life, make a compromise in the middle and be like, okay, well, this is how I'm feeling, but how is it really? And find the happy medium. Most people just kind of be like, well, my feelings are valid. So I'm just going to, I don't know, freak out, which is not how that works.
Never done anything wrong to me. It becomes a real issue though when players take that animosity towards the other side and they surround themselves with that same animosity. A hate bubble, if you will. That's why that type of content works. These survivors love watching killers get frustrated and bullied until they disconnect. Likewise, those killers love seeing bully squads get camped and abused. It's like a fantasy to them. The problem here isn't really the videos though. It's just
terrible
how
content.
seriously the players take the game, or rather, how seriously they take their side of the game. This is why good survivors often use that division to their advantage. I've come across a lot of these myself. After getting stunned by the best player on their team, they'll teabag and click at me like crazy, but they're not really doing it to be toxic or to rub it in my face. In that specific situation, they're doing it to try to antagonize me so that I chase after them.
Yeah, because in a lot of situations, that's their best chaser. In a lot of situations, that's the best looper on the team, and the reason they're doing that is to waste your time. So don't take the bait. I've said that before in the match reviews. A lot of people do this as bait. Don't take the bait.
Good of a survivor as they think they are, then they'll have me right where they want me. Distracted. Distracted enough for their team to hurry up and make progress on gens.
Literally exactly.
That's when I take a page out of my dad's playbook and simply walk away. Speaking of books, let's get some
took me a second to get that.
on what is and isn't toxic.
He should follow and never come back.
Look at the game's rule book. That's right. There's not one set of actions that everyone agrees is toxic. It changes depending on who you ask. Dude, why'd you hit me before I had a chance to heal up? Yeah, I know you chased and hooked someone else.
You remember the other day when we had somebody come into chat and it was like super mad because I had tunneled them, and I looked at him and I said, brother, I hooked a whole other person. I chased and hooked a whole other person before I came back to you. And the homie said, yeah, but that was just one. That guy was wild. I was like, huh? What? Did you want me to do a whole world tour of the team and then come back to you? Like, what? Like, huh?
Else after I got unhooked, but I'm not fully healed yet. Oh my god, why are you guys body blocking to try to save your teammate that's on their final hook? Ugh.
Just there to see it, bro. It was so funny. It was a Bubba game on Gas Heaven. It was hilarious. That gamer was so funny.
Leave? Report it. Oh, come on. Why do you have to keep blinding me? These are rules that people get legitimately upset over, and there's many, many, many more. But the thing is, a killer isn't going to get punished in-game for not letting a survivor leave through the hatch. Survivors aren't going to get points taken away for being altruistic. Something that could amplify sour feelings after a match is the fact that you either rank up or down in each game. There's no unranked quick play. For that,
I'm definitely way more upset when I get like tunneled out. I'm kind of like, of course I'm not having a good time, but like, when I hit that in-game screen, I'm like, and I'm just like, you know, safe pip. I'm like, yeah, whatever, you know. But when I D-pip, I'm like, gee, should have just played better, I guess. Like, I'm definitely way more upset.
Reason, although there isn't a purely competitive mode, that competitiveness is still there. That also makes players take matches much more seriously. So when somebody doesn't play the way they think the game should be played, they get upset. The way you play is never going to appease everyone. For me personally, I'm a killer main.
And that's good. That's good for you and everybody to realize at home. That's why I play the way I do, where I'm just kind of very like, I just do whatever. Because like, I went down that route. And those of you who have been with the channel for a really long time, remember that I used to kind of like get upset about it sometimes and that sort of thing. It's like, you can't really make everybody happy. Like, you literally can't. Like, I tried to play in a way that would like make, like, you know, perceivably would not upset people, and people still get mad at you. Like that perfect example I just mentioned, where like I that Bubba match, I never tunneled. Like literally when that person came in and said, "Oh, you're, you know, filthy tunneler," I was like, "Brother, I literally didn't tunnel anybody." like literally, like sometimes I do, but like that match I didn't tunnel anybody. What are you talking about? And they're like, "Well, you did me," and I was like, "But I hooked somebody, but I chased and hooked a whole other person before I came back for you," and they're like, "Oh, that doesn't count. That was only one person." Like, I literally did not tunnel once that entire match, and that person still hated me. And they ended up getting banned in my chat because they used a very ableist insult to follow it up, which is very cool. Yeah, it's like, you can't make anybody happy in this game. Some people are just out to be upset and hate this game. That's just how it is. Some people like hate play this game and have a terrible time. And that's just, you can't convince them to have a good time. Man, I was just trying to get points. Yeah, that's something they said. I was like, you did though. Well, no, they didn't, because they ended up DCing in the middle of my Mori. So technically they got no points. That was the funniest part of that. That was the funniest part. I was like, man, I was just trying to get points. I'm like, you DC in the middle of the Mori, so like, technically you got no points. So if you're really trying to get points, why did you just DC? I don't understand. You can't make it, TLDR, you can't make people happy. You could literally be playing the most perfect, fair game of killer ever, and like, somebody will get upset, so don't worry about it. Hey, Try, it's good to see you. Hope you're well today.
But I understand the pains of survivors, so I play in what I consider a tough but fair way.
Yep,
because
tough
it's how
but fair.
I prefer to play when
The way I play as I match the energy. If the survivors are clearly just kind of like messing around, for the most part, like I'll chase and I'll down people because I still want to play the game, right? Like I don't want to farm, but like I'll like intentionally take really, really long chases on purpose, or I'll like take suboptimal pathing on purpose. Like if they're not trying, like I'll just you know. I won't like not try, but I'll just kind of be like, oh, okay, whatever. I can commit to this chase for like a minute or two, or like, hey, I'm not going to go to this side of the map where I know the survivors are, because I don't have to. We're like 4 gens and I have like 9 hooks or something like that, you know? Like, I can chill a little bit, okay? But like, if you come in here like, I chase somebody for like a minute and then like 2 gens are popped, I'm going to be like, okay, now you're getting it. Oops, I clicked a button. I'm gonna be like, okay, now you're getting it. Now you're getting it. Now I'm upset. You know, now I'm gonna be camping, tunneling, throwing you in the basement. You know, proxying the hook. Now I'm gonna be sweating, right? It just depends on the energy you bring to the match. And I think a lot of that comes down into a fact is like people get salty about that because people don't understand when they're sweating in Dead by Daylight. They really don't. They don't understand when they're putting a lot of pressure on the other side, and it kind of creates this situation of like people just be like, oh my god, why was that guy sweating so hard, without realizing that, you know, maybe doing 3 gens by the end of like the first like chase and a half is like, that's a lot of pressure on the killer, and they're gonna try to take that pressure back, but they don't have that self-awareness to realize that that's pressure, you know, so that they get all, you know, surprised Pikachu face about it, and it's like, it just doesn't make sense.
But I understand the pains of survivors, so I play in what I consider a tough but fair way, because it's how I prefer to play when I'm survivor. Basically, treat others how you want to be treated. That's good advice
the golden
for life
rule.
In general.
The golden
Unless,
rule, yeah.
of course, you're a masochist, which, if you play this game, you just might be. Additionally, we also have to consider the big Canadian elephant in the room here. It's always super easy to blame the developers over something you don't like because, well, they made the game. When people get upset that their opponent
there is so much stuff in this game that I feel like, don't get me wrong, it's a very buggy game, it's a very unbalanced game, and I will be happy to have those conversations with you, but like I feel like there is such a severe lack of self-analysis in this community, and so much stuff could be mitigated if players just played better. Like, you don't have to play sweaty. I'm gonna get this out here because this is a big misconception that happens not only here in React videos on Twitch and in all my YouTube videos. You don't have to be playing at the top of your game all the time. It's a party game, right? You're supposed to just kind of load up and have fun. But if you want the things that you're upset about to stop happening, often it requires you to sweat harder or learn more. It's not always on the game's end. Perfect example is this video is coming out tomorrow at time of recording, but it'll be out for you by the time this hits YouTube. I released a video this week talking about like why add adrenaline and hope don't bother me is because I play pretty, you know, intensely in like the middle of the game and try to end the game by like 2 or 1 gens. That's my play style. And the reason I play that way is so I can avoid stuff like adrenaline, like hope and the perk that shall not be named combo. I don't want to deal with the super end game turnaround. So I just play more intensely in my mid game. So we end the game at like 2 or 1 gens, so I never have to be there. You know? Like there was a way for me to avoid that situation by switching up my playstyle and the intensity at which I played at a certain point in the game. You know? Like there was something I could have done about that. But so many people are like, well, just, you know, just nerf Addy or just nerf Hope. You know, it's like you have the capability to do something about it. You just don't want to invest the time and effort to get better to avoid this. It's something that's in your hands that you can avoid. Yeah, heck, you could just stop playing weaker killers if you really wanted. If you feel like you can't stop games from reaching the end game as Myers, stop playing Myers. Play Spirit, play Blight. You don't have to play S tier. You can play like somebody A tier, like Pyramid Head, Oni, Huntress. But you can play one of those characters, you know? I saw a tweet saying they hated the fact that the Call of Duty party games do competitive be seen as fun or something like that. It's still a party game. It's still a party game. Like, it has versus... Like, party games can have versus aspects to them, right? It's a very, very loose party game. I will say that. It's very loose. It's very loose. Because most party games have, like, rubber band mechanics, like Mario Party and Mario Kart do, to kind of keep the RNG fun and not let somebody kind of, like, you know, as people say, optimize the fun out of the game. Because if you optimize the fun out of the game just kind of goes... Okay, well, now the guy in last place gets, like, the best item, so screw you. You know? Like, that's how like Mario Kart handles it, right? But there's no mechanics like that in Dead by Daylight. So it's a party game in the sense that it's like it's so wacky and chaotic that like it's hard to see true skill in a lot of ways. Because like, you know, like for example, that Billy match I brought up earlier, like three brand new parts and I didn't bring any slowdown, like, and I was on Toba Landing, like. There really isn't much I can do about that, huh? And they all had reassurance, so I couldn't camp. All had off the record, so I couldn't tunnel. It's like not much I can do about that. Not much I can do about that. You know, there is no rubber band mechanic to help me out there. You know, that's just kind of how it goes.
Using a really strong element of the game, that's not on the player. They're just using something that was given to them. To use. If something in any game is genuinely too strong, that falls on the developers, and it's up to them to decide if that strong element needs to be changed and how much to change it. And when it comes to Dead by Daylight specifically, it makes players feel like they need to play a certain toxic way in order to win. That's why it's important for a player base and the development team to have a good, transparent relationship. However, the DBD developers don't exactly have the best history of being in their fan base's favor. I made a video covering the game's previous controversies if you want to get a better insight to that, but the gist of it is, the game used to be super buggy and unbalanced. Every major patch was met with some sort of vitriol by a good chunk of the community. This wasn't helped by developers making PR mistakes with what they say about the game sometimes. And yet, year after year, they have asked the community to nominate them for the Labor of Love Award at the Steam Awards, which would always be met with many players laughing at their screens. Personally, I think the developers have been doing a better job at keeping in touch with what the player base wants in terms of how to make the game healthier, at least considering how it was before.
Yeah, it's so crazy that so many people think that DBD is in like the worst state it's ever been in, when it's relatively more balanced than it's ever been, and there's like less bugs than there's ever been, and like less controversies than there's ever been. Like if you look back, like it's not that bad. And I just like it's so weird to go stream to stream and have people go like, yeah, DBD's in a really rough place right now. And I hear that a lot, and I'm like, well, what do you mean by that? Because, like, do you want to go back to, like, the Twins chapter where, like, half the roster didn't work, and, like, you know, old DS was still in the game, and old Dead Hard was still in the game? Like, you want to go back to that? You want to go back to, like, that era of DBD? Because I don't. I'm good. There's some nostalgic things I like about that era, but, like, overall, no.
All of those mistakes from the past still linger on and make it all the more easier to criticize them. They don't know what they're doing. They don't even play their own game, probably. They must hate working there so much that they're self-sabotaging. As someone who used to be in the game development scene, I tend to give developers in general the benefit of the doubt. I don't envy them at all. Especially the ones running live service games with big communities.
Yep.
Perfect game balance, especially in Dead by Daylight's case, will always seem to elude them. Add on top of that the pressure of every single player of meeting their expectations. Don't get me wrong here, the devs aren't perfect and they of course mess up. We should still keep them accountable for unhealthy changes and strive to make the game better. Although, no matter what happens, there's no reality where everyone is satisfied. There will always be people upset over any change, and the division grows further. I've seen so many "this game is survivor-sided" and "this game is killer-sided" comments literally
every single patch. I want to point this out. It's every single patch. People will just feel one way or the other forever. People thought the game was aggressively survivor-sided before the perk that shall not be named even came out. There are people saying that. People were saying Windows of Opportunity by itself was making the game super, super survivor-sided. It's just weird. There are people that said the game was super, super survivor-sided when Overbright Eruption existed. When the Overbright Eruption meta was a thing, people were saying, well, the game's still super survivor-sided, so they deserve this. And then people were still out here losing. People were still out here losing with Overbright Eruption meta and going, well, the game's super survivor-sided. It's ridiculous.
Right next to each other. Something that every single player needs to realize is that this game will never be balanced. There are so many different combinations that can end up in a single match. As of this recording, there are 32 killers, 702 add-on modifiers, 234 perk powers, 41 maps, and already I give up on trying to calculate all the different possibilities that could go.
I haven't got by that in a while, but that kind of got me. Specifically, that I never get blue screens of death, but it's when I do, it's DBD. DBD blue screens it's like once or twice a month, but DBD will blue screen my computer. So that actually kind of scared me for a second.
Go into a match because I'm not a math magician, okay? That's not even taking into consideration stuff like player spawn placements, totem locations, and gen regions. Simply put, there are just too many random factors for Dead by Daylight to be considered a serious competitive game. And here's a hot pocket take. This is a party game. So why aren't people having as much fun as they should? Everything I've talked about so far, the tribalism, the imaginary rulebook, the balancing issues, the overly competitive nature, all of that put together is the perfect recipe for toxicity. And all of that is unloaded after the match. You have a better chance of not being exposed to toxicity if you eat gas station sushi than you do if you go into the endgame chat.
I like sushi though.
The thing about talking with another person online is that everyone seems
it's always
to get
anime
a keyboard
profile
courage
pics.
buff. They say stuff they probably wouldn't say to someone in real life because it's easy to forget that on the other side of those pixels,
no accountability, no
there's
consequences.
another person. I don't think in the history
I tweeted out about this earlier. Is like the reason people act this way online is because there's like because you're online, there's an anonymity. So like you can just not deal with the consequences. You're not going to get called out for this. Right? Because even if you do get called out, you're just going to go hide with your friends who all agree with you and be like, yeah, well, the guy who called me out is dumb. And even if you end up in a situation where that doesn't end up working out and like the community actually ends up like going against you, like more than your like handful of friends can defend you from, you can just, you know, ghost off the internet for a while, or you can make a new account. There's like so many avenues you can use to just kind of like avoid consequences on the internet. It's really shitty. It's really terrible. Yo, thanks for the lurk, Astro. I appreciate it. Hopefully your 2S day's going well.
Ever anybody has under any circumstances told someone else to off themselves because they were legitimately upset that they lost at a game of rock, paper, scissors. That's not normal. Like, I get it, music sucks, but at least I could say I've never sent a death threat to a streamer over a loss. By the way, there's a button right there to hide chat. Very useful. Anyway, every single time I see those types of toxic messages, I genuinely feel bad. But not in the way they want me to feel. I feel bad for them. I really do, because I think that everyone is capable of more than that. I luckily have pretty thick skin.
A fellow believer in humanity. Sucks, doesn't it? Seeing the best in people and they keep letting you down. It's pain. It's pain, brother. I'm with you.
But I know that others don't. I've seen the clips. I've heard about times someone like that attacks a player that's just trying to have fun.
This is completely random. I'm probably going to cut this from the YouTube because this is just like totally a side tangent. For any of you who's seen Sailor Moon, that's like Sailor Moon's main character. Like Usagi, like that is her defining character trait, is she believes in everybody. And I never realized why I liked that character so much, but it just clicked. It just clicked because we do the same thing. Because I would be out here doing the same shit where I'd be like, no, the bad guy is redeemable, blah. Like, I'm like, wait, I get you. I get you. Sorry, that was just a random aside. See, on the Xbox, you get the beauty of voice memo DMs and party invites. Yeah, that's what Uzi sends me all the time. He sends me all the weird crap that he gets when he plays DBD, and I'm just like, ugh, so exhausting.
and it ruins their whole day. It's really sad because what I see there is someone lashing out. They have other stuff going on in their lives, and it's easier to lash out over something as inconsequential as this game than it is to deal with the problems that they're having. Let alone
True!
than it is for them
Tell
to
'em!
admit that they didn't.
Tell him! I love this video. Tell him! Tell him! It's easier to lash out in the game than actually address my issues and fix them. Yeah, tell him! Put him in the ground! Call him out! Love this
Play
video.
well. They don't improve themselves because it's not their fault. The other side cheated somehow. That's why some players play a certain way, such as when killers say they tunnel and camp because they need to, because that's the only way they can win. I don't tunnel or camp, and yet I do pretty well for myself. Does that mean I'm the top 1% of the 1% then?
What is going on over there?
That sort of toxicity doesn't stop when they win either. Sore winners are a thing too. They teabag like their life depends on it at the exit gate, and they hit you on the hook like you owe them money. Then they go into chat and type easy, even though it's their first win in a 3-hour play session. Then there's the truly toxic type of gaming, where the goal is no longer to just win the game. You got players sandbagging their teammates and snitching to the killer on where they're hiding. Before this was fixed, pinhead players were able to hold the entire game hostage by standing on top of his box.
And people want to keep that in the
preventing
game.
survivors from solving it and thus triggering a chain hunt. Pig used to also be able to stand in front of key cages to prevent survivors from escaping their head trap. A very common
And this resulted in a buff for her. The good ending, chat. The good ending. Her playing like a toxic piece of garbage actually got her a buff. Well, let's do the same thing with Sadako and make her... let's stick the landing. Let's stick the landing and make Sadako's buff actually like an actual buff and improve her. Actually, that's actually a really good idea. And not that we can just like 1-for-1 this because their powers are very different, but like something like Pig where you take out the really annoying like toxic playstyle and replace it with something that just makes her overall better. That's the way to handle that. The way to handle that.
toxic playstyle is slugging. If you don't know what slugging is, it's when a player and then they all over the... Oh, sorry, I was reading the wrong definition. I was on Urban Dictionary. Slugging is when the killer knocks down survivors and leaves them to bleed out instead of hooking them, which takes 4 minutes per survivor. Toxic players are more tempted to do this, along with tunneling and face camping, when they see TTV in someone's name. They have a bigger audience for their trolling now, and they take that as their time to shine. I've had people try to do this to me too, but unfortunately for them, I'm built different, and I just switch what's on the screen to talk with chat.
Oh, look at the key card.
Then there are those whose goals are beyond our comprehension, where they want nothing more than for survivors to suffer. I remember seeing this comment somewhere about how this happened to someone and their team. The killer was a streamer, so the commenter went into their channel. They were the only viewer there. They go into the VOD to see what the streamer was saying during the match, and here's the thing that really stuck with me. The streamer didn't say a single word that entire match. They slugged everyone and, with an absolutely blank expression, just watched as the whole team bled out. That sort of mentality is not normal, and it is definitely not healthy.
If you wanted like just a little side thing real quick, the thing to do if you're starting off and you're a streamer is like always talk as if there are people there and just hide your view count. That's the way to be. If you're constantly like hyper analyzing how many people are around and like adjusting your energy, like you're not going to attract people. Always talk like people are there. Always act like there's like at least 15-20 people in your chat at any given point. And act like you're talking to people.
All of that in-game toxicity is so strong that it can't be contained to only inside the game. It manifests into pessimism. Take a look at any official DBD post, or rather, any DBD post at all. I can almost guarantee that there will be someone wanting to start some sort of argument with a charged comment, especially when the post relates to patch notes or upcoming changes. Trust me, as someone who covers that, I've seen a lot of these. And when it comes to new characters or perks, they're so easy to dismiss them all. They really do judge it harshly on first impressions. I remember a comment I saw under one of my videos for the Singularity gameplay reveal, where the commenter said that the new killer is overpowered and unfair, and this just proves how killer-sided the devs are. Out of curiosity, I took a look at their profile, and sure enough, right there in their bio, it says that they play on PlayStation. The reason that says a lot is because when there's new content, that stuff is available early to try out in the playtest build, which is essentially
not available on
the game's beta
console
version for the new changes. However, that's only available on PC, that means this person definitely did not come to that conclusion based on their own experience.
Nope.
They were just predisposed to thinking the update was going to be bad, because their way of thinking in relation to the game is that they'll still have a bad time, and now they're about to have an even worse time. For someone like that, that could be the last straw for them. They comment that that's it, they're done. The game is dying and they're leaving. Maybe it's for the best for them. However, I've also seen people who no longer play the game.
Same thing as well as similar to what I said earlier. Impressions do matter. Your impressions do matter, but they are not fact. The initial impression you get from something is still a feeling that is still valid. But like I said, you got to find the compromise in the middle and go, well, what's the reality? And find somewhere in the middle. You know?
But are still upset from when they left that they'll actually come into my comments and argue back and forth with people on why the game sucks, why they suck for still playing, and that they should leave too. They don't want them to have the type of fun that they don't have anymore. Then there's people who just absolutely hate the game. They hate the devs, they hate the community, they hate the other side, they hate their teammates, and yet they still play it. They keep going back to it even though it agitates them so much. Every single factor I've talked about so far has caused them to be so unhappy whenever they play. It's quite literally almost an abusive relationship. Now take everything that's been brought up and think for a second. If you saw your friends play Dead by Daylight and they asked you to play and you look up stuff about it and all of this is what you learn, would you still be interested in playing? That's without even mentioning the high barrier of entry for new players when it comes to just learning how to play, where you can put 50 hours into the game and still be considered new. All of that discourages
it's a weird game for that reason
and makes it harder for the game to grow. There's obviously a lot of ideas that the developers can implement to make this problem better, but that's really out of our control right now, so what can we do about this? When you're just not having a good time, even at your lowest low, you shouldn't actively try to bring others down to your level. Instead of typing out your frustrations in the chat, just leave. Remember that it's just a game.
Do you guys see that, like, when I have a bad game, I just go? Or I have a game that I didn't enjoy as much, I just go, I just leave? That's on purpose. That's me just going, like, I'm probably gonna, not that I'm probably gonna say something, but just like, I did not enjoy that match. It was not in fact a good game for me. So I'm just like, okay, I'm just gonna go, right? Like I hit continue. I just go back to the match screen and load up another match, right? It's very simple. Takes you like a half a second just to go click that button. You don't have to be super cordial, you don't have to be like the very, very like peaceful monk up on the mountain and say GG's to everything, right? Like, oh yes, great games, everyone. Good sports. Like, you don't have to do that. If you had a bad time, just go. Just hit continue. Nobody's gonna be mad at you. It's much better than putting that negative energy into the after chat. Way, way, way better.
Games are meant to be fun. Once you start thinking of it as anything more than that, once you start taking it really seriously, that's a slippery slope to having your day ruined. That's happened to me too, don't worry. Get some water, get some food, do some stretches, look at cat videos, or maybe do the seemingly impossible and take a deep breath. And just touch some grass. At the end of the day, it'll be okay.
I tried to touch grass today and it started raining.
It could be
I couldn't go outside.
Worse. I could be playing League of Legends.
Ooh. Yeah, true, factual. I had my MOBA phase. I hated it. I had my MOBA phase and I hated it, so you can't take me back. You can't take me back. I played Dota 2, not League, but yeah. You can't take me back. It's not happening. Yeah, this is a very, very good video. I really, really love this. I really, really enjoyed this. There was a lot of life stuff in this, and I'm obviously all about that life stuff. A lot of life and mentality things. And it kind of just shows how, like, unnecessary a lot of, like, the toxicity that's in the community is. Hey, people just, A, didn't take the game as seriously and walked away more often. And then B, it's like three things. Take the game less seriously. All these things are not as big of a deal as you think they are. You know, walk away if you're feeling upset instead of causing pain. And if you do cause pain, be accountable for it. That's not even just like DBD thing. That's like that's life advice right there. Don't take everything so seriously. Don't put pain out there into the world if you can help it. And if you do, be accountable for it and make amends for it. That's life advice right there. That's 3 good things to live your life by, period. Period. Don't put pain out into the world. Walk away if you think you're going to. And if you do end up anyway, because you're human and you make mistakes, make amends for it. Very good advice. Not just in DBD land, but in world land, in real life land. Yeah. Great video. Very, very well made video. I'm very happy that this was, that they made this. Very, very good. Very, very good.